Hey there, and welcome back to Mutant Year Zero. My name is Pete, and today we complete the second to last episode in our Iron Mutant playthrough of the Seed of Evil DLC. My apologies for making you wait a bit for this one. The fact that a new semester has started and that both the NBA and Critical Role are back might have delayed this video by 1 or 2 days, but now you get to enjoy it on a weekend, and we have quite a few things on our plate here today, including the completion of 4 achievements. Before we get to those though, let's start off with a brief visit to Delta's fix pit.
I'm Delta, and you're in my fix pit. I haven't been this happy since my dad died.
Now, in the last episode, we grabbed another Noah Toon LP50, and today we want to get that ready for combat, so we are taking off a few attachments here from weapons that we are no longer going to use, and then we can put those on the LP50 and upgrade it to level 3.
Until next time!
And that is all we can do here in the Ark, no new lines from anyone else, so let's meet our team for today, which consists of Big Khan, Pharaoh and Magnus. Magnus is also already wielding that new LP50, with Big Khan having the other one equipped. Ability-wise then we have nothing too crazy here, but for Big Khan it's important to have Flame Puke equipped, although with him we'll have to make some changes as the mission progresses. Since he also has 17 upgrade points to spend, let us also quickly grab another health and another critical booster, with the latter of course being a lot more useful for us. And that's it, time to head out into the zone once more, and our destination today is the Last Stand, the last area apart from the Garden of Jyko that we have not yet explored.
I sense ghouls nearby. Real ghouls, not the pod kind.
We should grab what we can and get back to the job at hand. Got no time for real ghouls.
Alright, so we can collect a couple of bits and pieces here as we get started, mentally already prepare ourselves for ghouls, the regular kind, and then get interrupted by another call from Pripp. Yes, if you have been counting, we have only completed 4 side missions so far, and this right here, taking place at the Spear of Heaven, will be number 5. All that Pripp is able to tell us about it is that all hell is breaking loose, and we are going to find out what exactly that means in the second half of today's episode.
Those ghouls look shook. Terrified. You think the plants are giving them trouble too?
The vines feed on our brothers, then make fake brothers that want to kill us. Kill all the plants. There's one, and there's one. I don't know what plants are plants, and what plants are evil.
Right, now immediately following this line we want to launch our ambush, otherwise the butcher starts moving. This way we can take them out without anybody else noticing, which makes the fight later in this mission a whole lot easier.
Sprayed and slayed.
Get over here!
Now there is also a sect hunter over on the other side behind a small fence, meaning that as soon as we reveal ourselves they will have low cover.
That's right!
Now luckily we also set them on fire here, which does give an aim bonus, but that isn't guaranteed and we want to play this as if that didn't happen. So let us now move up with Big Khan and use his Flame Puke, which conveniently enough ignores cover. This also sets the enemy on fire guaranteed, which means Magnus does have a guaranteed hit here, as the hunter is burning brightly, balancing out the aim penalty from being in low cover.
You got.
Now at this point we want to switch Big Khan from Flame Puke to Ground Pound, as we actually still have an achievement to unlock involving this ability. For the time being though, we can start to explore the map a bit more. As you may have seen, there is actually no way of getting into that area with the tank and the pyro from here, at least not if we don't want to enter combat to do so, as that is the only way for our Stalkers to climb over obstacles. So instead we are making our way upstairs to find another note, this one telling the story of 2 former friends who ended up on different sides because of the war, with one of them pondering to join something called Noah Toon and to ride things out from under the sea. So that certainly sounds interesting and perhaps could be something to be explored in a future game or DLC. For the time being though, I have to disappoint you, you are sadly not going to see an underwater level anytime soon in this series.
Man the barricade, scrap brains! When these pod monsters come, we gotta be ready!
Now in this next area here we have 2 stationary medbots and 1 patrolling butcher, and we actually want to time things in such a way that we can take out all 3 of them at once.
Quit spraying your fear around! We're not some scared little stalkers. We are ghouls, so act like ghouls. We got burners on patrol looking for evil plants. These plants took half our brothers and changed them into ghoul killers. We have to get our revenge.
What are we gonna do? What if I'm a pod ghoul? You think I'm a pod ghoul? I don't think I'm a pod ghoul.
Shut your mask holes, skizzics! If anybody here gets weird, they get burned.
Okay. You're the boss lady, boss lady.
And great timing with the end of the dialogue here, as the butcher is now right where we want them to be to start our ambush. Now, of course, we want to stay silent for this one, so we'll start things off with the good old Wings of the Sniper gunslinger combination.
Say my name, she's I am the beautiful weapon. That score hurts.
And now we are going to unlock ourselves the home run achievement by sending Big Khan right into the middle of the pack and then using his ground pound mutation, which will stun, damage and knock back all 3 enemies. And there we are. With the achievement unlocked, we can now follow things up with a chain lightning, which kills the butcher, but not the bots, but those are stunned, so we don't have to worry about them. And finishing this fight is now very easy, of course. 1 shot from Big Khan, and then another one from Pharaoh, and we're done here.
I'm the hero, you're the zero.
Alright, we have gained ourselves another level, and that means we can finally unlock Big Khan's last mutation. So far, we haven't really had any use for Circuit Breaker with him, and that is likely not going to change. Still, for completionist purposes, we do of course want his skill tree to be, well, complete.
Move it.
At this point, we have also switched Big Khan back to Flame Puke, and we can now immediately unlock the next achievement, as we are just about to collect the very last artifact that can be found out here in the zone. The Blue Bottle Wand unlocks the Archaeologist achievement, and also presents us with an interesting, albeit slightly disgusting line from Pharaoh.
This tastes pretty good. A bitter, nutty aftertaste too. No wonder these insects are eating it.
Okay, and with that we are now heading right into the next fight here, which is a bit tricky because our enemies are above us, but of course that is not a problem that Pharaoh can't solve.
I'm the hero, you're the zero. What do you think about that?
Now this fight is also the reason why we wanted to have Flame Puke back on Big Khan, because if we now position him just right, then the angle of the ability is just enough to hit both enemies. And that means we can now finish the fight with Magnus's Chain Lightning, with the Shaman eventually going down to the burning damage.
One of ours is down!
Get a move on.
Alright, and with that we can now clear this upper floor. There is a ladder leading 1 level higher, but there is nothing of value up there. And since the ladder is blocked by enemies anyway, I'm not really sure what its use might be, other than perhaps to gain the high ground after the fight has already started. Now on the ground here we can find another note, the second to last in the game actually, this one providing us with further detail on that triangle thingy between Pripp, Delta and Iridia, and also spreading the much more interesting rumor that the Elder is apparently a robot wearing the skin of a regular man, because yes, that Elder storyline is of course also still floating around somewhere, quite literally actually, after he escaped off into space. Now we are now engaging another enemy, and I don't think I have to say much about this one.
To the bone, baby.
Just 2 shots will already be enough here.
I am the beautiful weapon.
That's how we do it.
Come on.
Now we have advanced to level 122, but at this point that is more or less meaningless in my opinion. For most of our Stalkers, the time to unlock new abilities and become more powerful has of course long passed. We now have a few seconds to catch our breath, collect some loot and prepare for the next fight here, which is going to take place against another isolated and therefore rather easy opponent. And so, once again, I don't think there is much to say here. We'll get things started with Magnus, then Big Khan can do the next 10 points of damage,
bang bang.
and Pharaoh can go for the kill.
Give up now and I'll go easy on ya.
You got it.
Get over here.
Now at this point it can actually save us a few seconds to split the party,
Careful, stay back.
so we will let Pharaoh roam ahead to collect the loot off of the bridge here, while Khan and Magnus stay behind and wait on the other side. As soon as Pharaoh has completed her loop, we can jump back to Magnus and regroup, and with that we have likely made this mission maybe 2 or 3 seconds shorter.
Follow me.
Now at this point there are only 2 enemies remaining, namely the 2 that we passed by at the beginning of the mission. So we already know that a sect tank and a sect pyro are waiting for us, paired together, 2 formidable enemies, but at this stage of the game nothing to be too worried about, and we should also be able to take them out relatively easily with our group of 3 here, so there is no need to make any changes. Before we engage them, we also want to collect a nice pile of weapon parts over here that can easily be missed, and then it's time to loop around to the right side of the enemies and hide behind the caravan, as that gets us closest to the tank, who is of course the priority target. We also want to make sure that Pharaoh is as close to the enemies as she can be, because of course, you have guessed it already, we are going to start this one off with another Wings of the Sniper Gunslinger combination, and even though Wings of the Sniper removes the range penalty, all targets do of course still have to be in range, and doing it this way ensures that we have a shot against the Pyro as well. Our next move is then maybe a bit boring, as we're just going to lob a frag grenade with Magnus, but in my opinion this is the easiest way to finish this fight in just 1 turn.
Stay away from me.
Weak one, Sal! Get up!
Go to sleep, dummy. Get your ass in gear. Those ghouls were ready for something big. We must be getting close to the source of these attacks.
And indeed we are, as we have just completed the last optional area that the game has to offer. The only things left on our to-do list are that last side mission from Pripp and the Garden of Jyko, and we are going to tackle those in exactly that order, as we revisit the Spear of Heaven next. Now, right at the beginning here, we are immediately greeted by a Polyspot Enforcer, and that is also going to be our first target, but first we gotta do some looting.
Stay right there, okay?
For that purpose, we are now splitting Magnus off of the group and explore the house on the left side, where we have a few bits and pieces lying around that we don't want to miss.
Move out. Stay here.
After teleporting him back to the group, we are then doing the same with Khan, only in the other direction, as he needs to get around to the back of the bot anyway, and there is also some good loot in the area. While we are collecting that, we can also take a note of the other Polyspot over to our right here, and we actually want that one to be right about where it currently is, otherwise it might be able to hear what's about to happen next, as we are now starting our ambush with a chain lightning from Magnus. Then follows the main reason why we positioned Khan in the back, as we are now going loud with him to do enough damage. And just as planned, no one heard that, so Pharaoh can now go for the kill.
Say my name, Jizwipe. It's Pharaoh. On me.
I will admit though, it took me a while to figure out that this is a viable solution to this fight, especially since there is a third bot also pretty close by, but apparently just far enough away for this to work. That one is now also our next target, as we briefly wait for the other one to pass by, and then we can engage. 3 crits should do the trick.
To the bone, baby.
Give up now and I'll go easy on ya. Regroup, now.
Now at this point we want to position 2 of our 3 Stalkers behind the bell here, so that they are safe from being detected by the bot. With Magnus meanwhile, we are once again going on another small loot loop, which actually takes us all the way over to the southern edge of the map here. The abundance of far spread out loot was already a theme when we first came here, and it hasn't really changed now that new loot has been placed. A good amount of wandering around in areas with no enemies whatsoever is still necessary to clear everything out. And speaking of clearing out the map, we are now ready to engage bot number 3 here. Once again though, the approach should be very straightforward.
Stay away from me!
I am the beautiful weapon. Let's go.
Now, as we make our way closer towards the church, we immediately encounter the next enemy. However, a lone patrolling butcher does not pose any threat whatsoever at this point, so let's sneak up on them and take them out before they move too far away.
I'm the hero, you're the zero. That score hurts.
And because we're only dealing with 20 hit points here, there is also not a whole lot of sneaking necessary.
Sprayed and slayed. Get your ass in gear.
Now we are getting to an interesting bit though, as we are taking up position next to the broken church window here. Now, outside of combat, there are only 2 ways into the church, and both of them are currently guarded. However, as I have mentioned before, if we are in combat, our Stalkers do have a few more liberties, so our first move here will be to use Wings of the Sniper with Pharaoh to fly through the window, which gets us into position to use Gunslinger on the Marauder and Granny Grey inside.
You don't know who you're messing with.
Now, our 2 enemies, Granny Grey is pretty much a shaman by the way, are also positioned just right for another flame puke, so let's move Khan into position and deal 10 points of damage to both of them.
One of ours is down!
And with that, Magnus can go for the kill from the outside.
Don't get up!
Now, leaving Magnus outside and not regrouping right away is actually important here, as we still want to be able to exit the church in just a moment here. First of all though, we can use Khan to grab the Helm of the Speaker and with that unlock the Mad Hatter achievement, as we have just found the final piece of headgear available in the game. As far as I'm aware, this is also the only way in the game to get guaranteed critical hits that are not in some way relying on stealth, and as such it is of course a very powerful item.
Advance!
Now, with Magnus back on the outside, we can regroup now and more or less continue where we left off, so this is a lovely way of getting in and out of the church without having to use any of the actual entrances. Moving on, we now have a fairly lengthy section of loot collecting coming up that I think I'll speed up a bit. You should still be able to follow along and take note of the spots if you are watching the video for that, but apart from that, there is really nothing noteworthy to mention here. It does give me a moment though to perhaps already invite you to let me know in the comments which of our Stalkers you would like to see take part in the last mission in the next episode, as that is of course going to be the series' grand finale, and perhaps you would like to see someone in particular to take a central role in that. Regarding the business at hand, we have now finally made it over to our next enemy, and again I don't think we have to talk too much about strategy here. If we only get 2 critical hits, then that is already enough.
How's that feel?
Wrong time.
I am the beautiful weapon.
You got.
Now at this point we have to make the first and only change to our squad in this episode, as Big Khan will now trade places with Selma. In theory, Borman would also work for this, the only thing that matters is that we have Twitch Shot, but I feel like we use Selma a little less frequently, so she gets the nod here, including the new Helm of the Speaker, and that also makes Alpinist obsolete, so we can now give her Supertendence instead.
On me.
Now, our next enemy is, at least in theory, another tricky one, as they are once again above us and there is only one way up, and using that will definitely lead to our detection. Considering that it's only a Marauder with 20 hit points though, that is not really a problem, because we don't even need to get a single critical hit here in order to finish this fight in one turn. And so Pharaoh can climb up now and start us off.
You don't know who you're messing with. Come get some!
Now, conveniently enough, the Marauder was just set on fire, which means we don't even have to go up with anyone else at this point, as the aim bonus and penalty neatly cancel each other out. Sadly though, no critical, which means we are indeed going to need 3 shots for this. After the fight, we can then quickly grab the loot from the roof with Pharaoh before jumping back down.
Get over here!
Now, our next target is obviously the Zealot patrolling the area, and for this one we want to get onto the other section of high ground that is still intact here. The reason why we are doing so on this side is that we want to use our loud weapons for this, and on the other rooftop section where the Marauder was earlier, we would be a little too close to other enemies, who would then of course be able to hear us. So instead we are now taking cover up here in a neat little line, and then all we have to do is wait for the Zealot to come back around again. All of that is going to take a moment, so in just a second we will slightly speed things up again, but as you know, in this game oftentimes the slow and careful approach is the one that promises the most success. Since our loud weapons also all have a knockback effect, we will start things off with Pharaoh, as she is the one furthest away from our target.
From me!
Up next then it is Selma's turn. She has a guaranteed critical hit as well. And that brings us to Magnus, whose critical is not actually guaranteed, but thankfully also not needed to finish the fight. Right, and with that we are now at level 127 and get closer and closer to the completion of this side mission. There is also one more bit of loot inside of the house here that we don't want to miss, and now it's time to return to the church, although this time we are going in one level higher than before. You can already see the medbot on the right here that we are going to take out first using the high ground, and then our next and actually last target can be seen lurking around in the background. In just a second, maybe keep an eye on their stats, and you might be able to see why this could be a particularly tough nut to crack. Still, the medbot is up first, so let's get things going with a critical from Pharaoh.
I am the beautiful weapon. Blow!
Up next then we have Selma, who once again is guaranteed to crit from above.
Not today, dickwife!
And then Magnus can finish the job with one of his chain lightnings.
Regroup.
And that means it is now time to engage Long Witch. We are going to use a very particular approach for that though, which means first of all we have to get out of the way here, which gives us a moment to let the fact sink in that we are dealing with 44 hit points and 6 points of armor. In that sense, this is actually by far the toughest enemy we have faced so far in this game, easily surpassing the heavy Z600 mechs from the base game, and still we will try to take them out in one go, so we will of course need to hit extra hard. If you are doing the math, you will quickly be able to see that even 3 critical hits from our heavy weapons will not be enough here, but that is the reason why we have Selma in our squad, whose twitch shot should make things a little bit easier. With Long Witch giving us a brief opening here, we can also put Magnus and Pharaoh into cover. Magnus can go a little bit further in the back as his headgear gives him a movement range increase. For the ambush then, we want to get as close as possible without being detected with Selma. Although she won't be the one to go first, that honor is reserved for Pharaoh, who can use her critical to knock Long Witch off of the roof, dealing 4 additional points of fall damage in the process. That means it is now Selma's turn, who can just make it to the edge of the roof, and even though she is no longer hidden, a critical hit is still guaranteed, 2 in fact, since we are going to use her twitch shot mutation here. As you can see though, that is still not enough to get us the kill, so that task now falls to Magnus. From his original position, he sadly doesn't have a shot, and that is exactly why that movement range increase is very useful, as it helps him get into position for the final blow. And there we are, with Long Witch defeated, this side mission is also considered completed, and since this was the last of Pripp's 5 side missions, we unlock the Pub Crawl achievement. That is now our 4th achievement for today's episode, meaning that in total we also only have 5 more left in the entire game. And of course, all of them can and hopefully will be completed in the next episode, including one that once again requires us to use Big Khan, so he will have to make an appearance in our series finale, but of course that does not mean that he has to stick around for its entirety. So once again, as we collect the last bits of loot here, let me know in the comments who you would like to see on that final mission. Of course, as always, there are some of our Stalkers who will be better suited for it than others, but at this stage in the game we should be able to make that last mission work with just about anyone. For today though, it is time to finally return to the Ark once more, perhaps even for the last time in this series. For now, as you can see, the Ark is still overgrown with roots, but we will hopefully be able to do something about that as we go phase 2, well, tree with Jyko in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. For today, we'll make the cut right here. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can do so, for example by subscribing to stay up to date, by grabbing some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or by checking out and maybe even pledging to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.